I'm Steve Coyle, MD at Cullen Property, and today we're looking around a typical HMO flat, the type of flat we source and can refurbish for our clients as a HMO property in Edinburgh. We're going to look at this flat. Let's go in and have a look around. Okay, we often are asked by new landlords and investor clients, what's the difference between a HMO flat and a non-HMO flat? And that basically boils down to safety. The council issue HMO licenses, House of Multiple Occupancy licenses. Initially those are for 1 year, and then if all is in good order, the council will generally renew that initial license for a 3-year period. As a landlord, it's your responsibility to make sure all those safety items are in place, and the council will on the first license send a HMO officer along to inspect the flat and make sure all is in working order. So we're going to spend a few minutes on each of the main component parts of what goes into making a HMO property, and it is mainly fire safety related. So the first thing we're going to look at are doors, and on a HMO property the council will want to see that that door is what they term a 30-minute fire door. In other words, if we were in this room, there was a fire on the other side of this door, we've got adequate fire safe protection via this door for at least 30 minutes. The idea being that the fire brigade have rescued you before the 30 minutes have expired. So what is a HMO fire door, a 30-minute fire door? It really has 3 component parts to it. It must be able to self-close from an angle of 90 degrees. So if it's let go from there, and the fire officer will test this when they come do the HMO inspection, must be able to let it go. The self-closer should mean that it fully latches and closes by itself from an angle, and it shouldn't slam. We may do this in another video, how to adjust one of these, but there are 2 little adjustment screws on here that can adjust the power that door closes so that it's not slamming. The other parts of the door, it must be wide enough. Normally that's at least 38 millimeters, should at least be 40 really, and it should be wide enough, and it has an intumescent strip. That means when there is a fire, this acts as a smoke seal and keeps the smoke on the other side of the door. And the other component part that they should have are wood hinges. These happen to be fire rated hinges, so they won't melt in a fire. Some of the older properties that we have up in Marchmont have the original cast iron type hinges, which the council will deem to be absolutely adequate and strong enough to withstand a 30-minute fire intensity. So there isn't a one size fits all. It does depend on the attributes of the individual door, but certainly if you've got an old door with thin panels in the middle of a traditional door, you may find that you've got to either replace that door with a fire blank, and then you can dress it with extra panels as well to make it look like a 4-door panel, or there are things that you can do with the original door if it's got the requirement thickness to increase that door up to 30-minute fire protection. Smoke alarms are the next thing we're going to look at. In all letting properties in Scotland, you must have smoke alarms that can detect heat and smoke throughout the property. And in non-HMO properties, that means you have a smoke alarm in what they call the high traffic areas. So in the hallway, the lounge or the living room, heat detector in the kitchen, and a carbon monoxide detector wherever there's a gas appliance in that room. In HMO properties, you'll additionally have smoke alarms in the bedrooms as well. So the first thing we're going to do is look at this alarm and the type of alarm that's in hallways, lounges and bedrooms. These are called optical alarms, and that just refers to the way that they detect smoke in the property. And they all have now, or should have, 10-year lithium batteries, which means once it's on the ceiling, the tenant does not need to replace the old little square batteries, and you used to walk around your house listening for the beep and trying to figure out which alarm. We don't do that anymore. These are 10-year lithium batteries. In a HMO property, they're all hardwired and interlinked, so if one goes off, they all go off. And the other thing they have on them is a date. That's quite important because we're now coming up to 10 years on from when heads were first fitted in residential properties. So if you're a letting landlord, or you're buying a property, or even if you're an agent watching this, you should know the date on every single alarm in every single property you own or manage. It's on the side, and you need to make sure that's in date. The alarm will still work if it's out of date, but the methods that the alarm uses for detecting smoke starts to wane after the expiry period, so you should really replace that head. So that's the type of head we have in hallways, lounges and bedrooms, called an optical alarm. Into the kitchen we have a different type of alarm. This is a heat detector, and as its name suggests, it's purely detecting heat. Otherwise all the alarms will be going off every time you're trying to do the toast or the steak that you're grilling. It would set all the alarms off, and we don't want that. Again, they have a date on the side of them. That should be checked and recorded so that the alarm can be tested and replaced as and when the alarm expires. The other thing we have in here, just up on the wall here, is a carbon monoxide detector. This currently doesn't have to be connected to the rest of the alarms. It's a good idea if you can, but it doesn't need to be, and this should be in any room where there is a gas appliance. So in this kitchen we have in the cupboard here a new valence boiler, flew to the outside. That's carbon monoxide detector, would detect any issue if there was any leakage from the flue, and it would sound the alarm so that there's no health issue to the tenants. I did promise you that we were going to set these off, so we're just going to try that. We're going to press the button, and this is something that when we're doing inspections on properties, and certainly when the HMO inspection takes place, we do actually test the alarm. I did warn you. So that's all of the alarms going off. We've set this one off. Every alarm in the property's gone off. We may have just scared a few of the neighbours as well, but we've tested the alarm system. We know it works, and that is the sort of thing we do on every inspection that we do to make sure that the tenants are safe in their property on your behalf. The next thing we're going to have a quick look at are emergency lights, and you'll be used to seeing these in public buildings. Anywhere where there may be a fire, public at risk, you'll see signage and emergency lights, but you may not know that we actually need those in HMO properties as well. The reason for this, you'll see that the doors are self-closing, so they should all be closed at night. Now, if there are no other daylight flow into the property, then when we turn the lights off, my colleague Scott's just going to do this, you would see how dark it is. And as this happens, you can imagine now, if we're at 3 o'clock in the morning, the alarms have just gone off, we come out here and there's smoke everywhere. We're disorientated, we don't know which way to turn. So the emergency light, if there was any issue with the with not being able to see, the emergency light would set off. This passageway would now be lit in green, and it would be obvious to the tenants to know which way to walk. They do need testing every year. So the test for these, because there is a sleeping risk where you've potentially got tenants asleep when the electric goes off, they have a backup battery. That has to be tested every year, and to do that the electrician should come in, turn off the electric to it, the battery will power the lamp, it will turn green, he has to disappear for 3 hours, come back, and so long as it's still green, it means the battery is charging as it should do. It's safe, it would work if it was required to do so, and he can sign it off and issue the certificate for it. We're just going to look at windows as well, and windows in, well, any property should obviously be working properly, should work as they're designed to work, should lock, should, if they've got, as this one has, the little trickle vents as they call them at the top, they should be working in order, not seized. If it's an old sash and casement window, the sash cords, so the cord that holds the weight in the window to counterbalance the sashes being lifted, they should all be in good order. You quite often, particularly in the older flats, see those where they're frayed over the years and they'll split, so they should be in working order. In a HMO property, those will be checked as well. They must work properly. The other thing that, particular to HMO properties, that we need to look at are sill heights. It must be at least 800 millimetres from the ground. Now, the thinking behind this is that if you have tenants or a very low sill and the tenant walked over to the window and tripped, they could fall through the window. So the window sill should be at least 800 millimetres high. The council can ask them to be much higher, but clearly you can't move the sill, so sometimes you're asked to put battens in or some kind of protective barrier to save a tenant falling out of the window. The other aspect of the windows we must look at are the actual glazed sizes. So the regulations, unfortunately, these are not retrospective, so it's not as though they will be applied, and if you've got an existing license, they would make you change the windows or anything. But when it's a brand new license, brand new application, they would look at the window sizes. The glazed area of the windows must be at least 1/15 of, or no greater than 1/15 of the floor area. With an opening area, so if you can imagine the lower half, when it's opened, the opening area must be no greater than 1/30 of the floor area. And those two measurements mean that the window is big enough for the room. So we haven't got a huge room with a tiny little window and someone's trying to say this is a bedroom when it's more of a storage room than anything else. So that's windows, and something that sometimes can be overlooked, particularly when clients are potentially looking at purchasing a property. It's definitely something to check. If you're a landlord already, or you're looking to buy a residential property, or you're in a flat or home that you're living in and about to move shortly and want to know either what that property might achieve on the rental market or how you would let that property out, then go to our website, have a look at the information on there. There's loads of information about the rules and regulations, what you need to do, what the process is. There are even some videos about the different elements of a property and what you need to do to make it ready for marketing and letting for tenants. And if you want as well, you can look on our website. There's a 30-second free rental valuation, so you can see what your property might value at if you were indeed to put it onto the rental market. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so through the website. My name is Steve, I'm the MD at Cullen Property, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.